y'all, welcome to Faith Meets Goals. I am Tashana, and on this channel, we focus on growing closer to God, accomplishing our goals through our faith, and also finances. So today we're going to be talking about how to be a good steward of money and also how to budget. I upload Tuesdays and Fridays, so if this is the type of content that you're interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So because God is the one that provides for us, He is the one that makes sure we have resources and money, it is important that we are good stewards of that. So I want to start off with some scripture, and I'm going to be in Luke 16, and the verses are 10 through 11. And it says, "If you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven?" So I have a life application study Bible that goes into detail of the scripture. And so it says, "Heaven's riches are far more valuable than earthly wealth. But if we are not trustworthy with our money here, we will be unfit to handle the vast riches of God's kingdom." And this is one of my favorite scriptures, especially when it says, if you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. Because a lot of times we feel like we don't have enough money to budget or it doesn't matter. But God is saying, if we are faithful, if we know how to manage the resources and the money that we have now, when He is able to trust us with more, we will be able to handle it responsibly and we'll have the disciplines to steward that. So I want to talk a little bit about how I got into budgeting in the first place. So after I had my daughter in 2018, I wasn't working for a while. And I was focused on going to school, finishing my degree, natural hair influencing, and also I had a small business selling hair care products. So during this time while I was in school, I received refund checks. And because I wasn't working, I learned during this time how to make my refund checks stretch. And that's when my budgeting journey really started. And it was easier for me because I was still living at home as well. And so when I would get a check, I would analyze it and be like, okay, so how long can I make this stretch? How many months can I live off this? And I would put it into an account. And every month I would send myself a portion of it. I would literally pay myself from this refund check as if I was receiving income, and I wouldn't touch the rest of it. And when I started working, I just continued those habits. I continued budgeting my money. I continued saving. And that's really how I started budgeting. And this was really helpful because if you watch my other videos, my first really big job after I got my degree, I was there for less than a year. But while I was there, I was saving. So even when I quit that job, I had savings to where I could pay myself until I found something else. And so my most recent job, I was there for a little over a year. And again, I had stacked and I had saved. And so when I decided to quit in April of 2023, I had money saved that I would just pay myself monthly. I currently don't have a 9-to-5 right now. I am focused solely on content creation and entrepreneurship, and my husband works a full-time job. And so today I want to go through how I've been budgeting over the years and how I budget for my household. I want to also say I'm not perfect, so even though I've had a budget, that doesn't mean I haven't fell short. If you watch my prior video, I do have a little bit of credit card debt that I am planning on paying down this year. Back when I first started budgeting, I was using an app on my phone. I now use a budget planner, and this planner is actually really helpful because it has scripture inside of it as well. So while I'm budgeting my finances, I'm also being constantly reminded to include God on my financial journey. So I love this planner. So when you first start budgeting, the first thing you want to do is sit down and identify all your income sources. What comes into your household monthly, and this is all income sources, whether it's a side hustle, whether it's a full-time job. You want to write that down. The next thing you want to do is identify your expenses, how much your expenses cost, and I like to categorize them by needs and wants. And the reason why I say differentiate them from needs and wants is because I think it's important to identify what's a necessity and what's not a necessity. And so when it comes to needs and wants, needs for me would be rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, gas, car insurance, any type of insurance really, your car note, your phone bill. any debts that you have. So if you have credit cards and you have a minimum payment that you have to make, include that in your needs because that is something that's a bill that you have to pay. Tithing and giving. These are considered needs for me. Wants would be considered memberships, subscriptions, spending money, dining out, things like that. So after you wrote out all your expenses and how much they cost and you've separated them by your needs and your wants, the next thing you want to do is calculate all that. So how much do all of your expenses cost? And then you're going to subtract your expenses from your income. And this is how you're going to truly be able to see, okay, so what is it that I have left over after all my bills are paid, after all of my estimated expenses for the month? What is my balance? Once you get that balance, you'll be able to get a good gauge of where you stand financially. And I know you're probably wondering, like, okay, so I did all this and my balance is actually negative. My expenses actually exceed my income. So, like, what do I do now? So, there are a couple things. The first thing is, like I said, you already have your needs and wants separated. So what I did when I did the budget for my household was there were some things in my wants list that I had to cut out. I would just go down that wants list and really see what's in there that you could live without, what's in there that you really don't need that would save you some money. And I should have touched on this before, but like make sure that you're literally getting all your expenses because sometimes you may be paying for a subscription that you don't even know is coming out of your account. So look at your bank statements and see like, what am I really paying for that's coming out of my account each month? If you go down that wants list and you start cutting things out and you're still in the red, you still have a negative balance, I do have some more tips for you. You could try to negotiate your monthly bill with your utility provider. If you're going through any hardship, you can let them know that. A lot of times they will work with you. I have Dominion Energy. One thing that I did not like was our electricity bill would be fluctuating. Like 1 month it would be this, the next month it would be that. And I was just like, it would just be easier if our electricity bill was the same thing every month so that we could know what to expect. In my region, Dominion actually has something called budget billing. This is when they take the average of your billing history over the past year and they give you a set amount to pay each month based off of your usage. And so this was really helpful for us because our electricity bill was no longer fluctuating. It's now the same amount every month, so we know exactly what to expect. And so after you finish calculating your budget and then revising it to cut out things if need be, then you'll be left with your balance. And if you have a positive balance after subtracting your expenses from your income, then you want to figure out, okay, so what do I do with this leftover money? I like to sit down with my husband and we just talk about, okay, so what are our goals for this month? Is our goal to pay extra on debt? Is our goal is to save more? Write down exactly where that extra money is going to go to. This way, every single dollar is accounted for. There's nothing lingering. And something else that helps me out with this is having several accounts. So I'm definitely an advocate for having different accounts for different reasons. I'm a fan of having an account for your bills, an account for spending, an account for saving. I really don't like having money for different purposes jumbled up in the same account. I think it helps to separate them for the purpose that they have, especially because I think this helps prevent overspending as well. Another tip when it comes to having different accounts is I like to have a buffer in my bill account. For instance, I try to spend around the same amount on groceries every week, but groceries are variable. And sometimes I might spend $100 this week and $115 next week, right? And so it's really hard to budget groceries to a T. And so by having a buffer in your bill account, that money is able to be a cushion for the variable expenses. So the next thing that is helpful is tracking your expenses. Now, this is something that I struggle with. I know my husband's gonna watch this video and he's gonna be side-eyeing me because I really struggle with tracking the expenses. And this is basically making sure that the money that you budgeted is actually what you're spending. And so that way you'll be able to adjust your budget as need be. Now, this is just how I budget. I am not an expert or anything. This is just something that works for my family and could possibly help you as well. I want to conclude with a scripture regarding financial planning, and I'm going to be in Proverbs. So Proverbs 21, verse 5 says, "Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity. but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. And so, while God does not want us to idolize money, that does not mean He doesn't want us to be good managers of it. And budgeting could be a good practice for anyone, no matter how much you make. The habits that we create in the beginning, our faithfulness to the little things, they can determine what we do with the bigger things, what we do with the bigger responsibilities, what we do with abundance. And I want to make sure that God is able to trust me with everything that He has given me now. I truly hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. I hope that you feel encouraged to be a good steward, and I will see you in the next video.